I apologize. So I'm going to call this joint meeting of the King George Board of Supervisors and Planning Commission to order.
Call the joint meeting of the King George Planning Commission to order.
Please stand with invocation led by Supervisor Bender, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please, Lord, guide us to make the right decisions for the county and to think wisely and thoughtfully to make sure that everything is done in the minds of keeping our constituents and our young people front and center. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, we have public comment tonight? All right, so welcome to Florida Public Comment. Please keep each member speak for 3 minutes. Please state your full name, the district in which you vote, so it can be properly included in the public record. First, I have Bob Baird. Hey, Bob, how are you?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to keep it short here. I want to say a couple of things. First, I'm amazed and overjoyed that we have such representation here. We've got citizens, we've got organizations, we've government officials, we've got you as the members of the board, the members of the planning committee, a number of different perspectives on what happens in our county. Also, we have representatives of the school system. Our history here is complex. We've progressed over 400 years from forested frontier to a society of technological and innovation. Over it all, we need to remember that we are a partnership. We all need to work together for the best of our community and use common sense. On the other hand, we need to recognize there's a lot of perspectives we need to consider. We need to bring it all together and learn from our mistakes and our successes over the years and come together in partnership to build a community that is beneficial to our citizens, the visitors to our county, businesses, and organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. James Shaw.
James Shaw, James Monroe District, speaking both in my capacity as EDA member and as a King George taxpayer. You don't and won't have it easy tonight, Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors. You won't be able to please all the people all the time. The path forward revising the comprehensive plan winds itself through a series of landmines. So how does one please at least most of the people most of the time? As I understand things, the comprehensive plan includes a map of where various zoning designations will move or shift in the next 5 years, and one can see an example of that from 2017 in the hallway just down the road here. I personally became aware of some folks in our county who are banking, betting, or speculating on what happens with these zoning upgrades or shifts or designations. For example, 869 acres of ag land that has a typical average value of around $10,000 to $13,000 per acre in the county. Because it was within an industrial zone, Amazon ended up buying that land for around $190,000 per acre. Excuse me. Yeah, I won't be home to put my chickens away. So Amazon ended up buying that land at around $190,000 per acre. And so you can kind of say that some folks won the zoning lottery in that case. So the challenge will be in the county as a whole to be making the process fair. Perhaps in the past, county leadership has made it too easy for the land speculator. And as a result, outside money comes in, bids up the land and houses, and that makes housing unaffordable for lower wage workers, kids graduating from home private and public schools. And that's one reason why we're investing in an upgraded VOTEC building. The solutions will not be easy. For example, the land trust folks that have appeared in recent meetings in the past few months have provided a number of various means, including the sale of developmental rights, that can help keep the land cheap for use by the younger and upcoming future farmers for a majority agricultural county that we are. May God bless the King George Renaissance, where making hard decisions can lead to a better and fairer future for all.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak? Anyone receiving any correspondence? Anybody online? They back there today?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right. In that case, we will move forward. And I'll pass it over to you, Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Planning Commission, Matt Smolnick, County Administrator. So the next part of the meeting, we really a discussion back and forth. The way we saw this as it was a request from the Planning Commission to talk about the comprehensive plan. So Kelly, Ms. Leduc, please correct me if I go off course here, but I believe the last comprehensive plan was updated in 2019. There's a provision in state code that says the Planning Commission shall review it once every 5 years to see if it's advisable to amend the plan. The Planning Commission's ultimate, yep, let's go ahead and do it. So the RFPs hit the street for these services a couple weeks ago. The question period just ended, I believe it was yesterday or the day before. So the county is in process of securing, and we had a meeting with some applicants, about 4 or 5 different firms. It was an optional meeting, but we held that a couple weeks ago, and in the near future, we will receive proposals to select who we want to interview and ultimately come back to the board to hire. So, right now, I think the discussion really, between the board and the Planning Commission and the community is, what are some of the goals of the board, with this comprehensive plan? What do we need to look for? And again, comprehensive plan, it's not the law. It is a guide. Some folks, have a misunderstanding of the comprehensive plan. It is only a guide. The zoning ordinance is the law. So that's, the best, easiest way I can explain that. So as an introduction, I really would turn it over. The Planning Commission requested this meeting. Maybe Ms. Flatley, if you want to, go ahead and take over, if that's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, or if you have anything to say.
Yeah, 1 second. Have we recognized that Mr. Sullins is online? Mr. Sullins, can you hear us? I guess he's not. Is Mr. Stroud online, or is he not online?
I think we just had Mr. Sullins. He was on earlier.
Maybe he's not coming back till 6.
All right. All right, Denise, go ahead. Do you have? Yes, I can hear you now. Yep. Good. All right. Continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Ms. Flatley, if you'd like to kind of take over with, some questions and lead the charge from the Planning Commission.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you. I appreciate your time, exchanging thoughts and ideas about what the expectations are going to be for us to help develop the comprehensive plan. One of the first things that I wanted to kind of get some feedback on is what we think the scope of that review is going to be. If it's going to be just a review, is it going to be maybe some paragraph tweaks, or is it going to be something that requires complete chapters or entire revisions? So I think kind of defining that as maybe one of the first things.
All right, and I'll open up to the members of the board, speak on their vision on that. Ms. Bender?
Yeah, I've said this before. This was done in 2019. I think Mr. Kendrick and I are the only last two that were here when this was done, and a lot of stuff has happened, and I do think it does need a total overhaul.
Mr. Metz?
I think we need a good thorough review of the plan and see where it does not align. There's appears to be, to me, as I read through it, some inconsistencies. I'll just throw out a couple of examples. Like, we have great communities today in the Dahlgren community area where I live in Fairview Beach and Potomac Landing. If you look at their zoning law, it'd be really hard to get a neighborhood approved that would be another Dahlgren or another Fairview Beach. Is that what we want? All right. Is that our vision for the county? I'd also take a look at, say, like the Route 3 West heavy industrial area. That's practically full. All right. So we do need a diversity of taxpayers here in the county. Right. So are there other targeted areas where we would want to look at to send businesses, right? That comp plan is sort of the first thing a business looks at when they're coming to the county. Like, where should I locate? All right. Route 3 West was where, if you were heavy industrial, the comp plan called that area out specifically to go look at. You know, I think the Planning Commission has the tools and can work with economic development on, okay, does the rest of the comp plan now match what we want to do countywide? So I think from that aspect, I think that we do need to take a look at each of those settlement areas. Are they okay? That's actually a good answer on I would say on a number of them. And on a few of them, it's like, no, okay, over the last 5 or 6 years, there have been some tweaks and moves and improvements. Do we want to lock those in and clarify? The other thing is, I'd love to define the definition of rural. Right? Top of the comp plan says rural community. Right? To me, that means dark skies, I can see stars at night. Right? Our zoning law doesn't have anything in there about lighting dark skies. So maybe that's an outcome of comp plan update. We're getting there. Yeah. Right. Okay. That's my 2 cents.
Mr. Sullins? Again. Thank you. Mr. Stroud's not here, right? I don't know if it needs a complete overhaul. I think there's, my own personal opinion is there's probably some tweaks and things that need to be updated. If we think there's inconsistencies in it, then make those things more consistent across the line. You know, so I mean, as far as maybe looking at some areas that we might want to zone to industrial, but then if we're going to move it in that direction for future things, then we have to start working to put the infrastructure in to make it viable for people to actually, we can call it industrial all we want to, but if we don't put in, it's never going to happen, right? And I think it's a lot of, going, where the data centers are planning on going and all that. I think that for years, people just really felt like no infrastructure is ever really going to make it out that way anyway, right? So why? But now it's happening. So, and I think we have to kind of look at what exactly that, like what we're putting in now. What is that? How is that going to change things for us? When all that infrastructure is put in and we tie all the service authorities in together and, we have the ability to bring in industry in there. How is that going to change the outlook of our county the way it is right now, right? So when those things are going to happen sooner or later, even if the data center coming up doesn't go through, I find that when people want to sell their property, they're usually going to figure out a way to sell their property, put something there, right? So we got to prepare for that.
Mr. Chair, can I add one more
Sure.
thing in?
Always one more.
One of the things, when I was on the HB 206 committee, I talked to a lot of the other localities, and that was the solar regulation committee. And I was asking them what's in their comp plan. And some things that I had put in a document, it was actually when Ms. Hall was here as in Kelly's role. And some things I would put out, like identifying where our prime ag land is, farmland, our prime forest land, which is like old growth forests, the wetlands, whereas the utilities all traced so you can see. Now, these will all be mapping historical resources so developers know where the areas that they're going to know that it's a sensitive area. Military overlay zone, infrastructure overlay zone, where you can see where our water and sewer is. Industrial zones, light or heavy, and topography maps. It's one of the big things. There's not enough information contained in there, especially, if a developer comes in. So those are just some of the things I wanted to add from way back when I created this document.
Thank you. And I know we don't have a lot of time tonight, so I want to be fair to the other planning commissioners. But I would just like to ask, we are very eager to participate, and we are very excited about how we can contribute. And so one of my questions would be, how do you see that process bearing fruit? Should we create committees that might dive into conservation or the military overlay district or rezoning or whatever the things that we think we need to change? Do we combine our members and create co-committees, or do we want to open something up like we did before, where we invite invested members of the community?
My personal opinion would be probably a little bit of both, right? I think it would be, I found that the ZOTAC board that we put together very beneficial. I know that they don't want to hear about another boards coming around because it makes work on their table. But I found it very beneficial. We brought in people from realtors to large landowners to the developers, and we had to just regular people come in and talk about what the process looks like. But I think it's very important to involve the community in the vision. I've said it a million times from back here of going, it's up to us to figure out what we want. If it isn't one thing, then what is it? What are we looking for? And so I think people want to have say, so I think we should do that. Mr. Nicely, you got something to say?
Oh, I was just adjusting the mic. Yes, I do have something to say, but I didn't mean to cut you off, sir.
No, I was good.
Yeah, I guess one of the things that I was going to say is when we last had a joint meeting, there was a statement from the board that they wanted to make sure that the Planning Commission understood the board's vision for the county. And I think there was even a statement that was said that maybe you all would produce a vision document that could be part of this comprehensive plan, right? We've already heard tonight, right? We'd like either definition of rural. I'd like to see some numbers come from a combined group that would say, what percentage of the county do we want to continue to be agricultural? What percentage of the county do we want to have to be residential? What is a growth rate that we would like to see for the county so that we have an idea of what the vision is of where we want the county to be 20, 30 years from now. I know the comprehensive plan has to be reviewed every 5 years, but we tend to get very myopic with our view of what's the fire drill and who's the big developer that wants to come in this next month, and we start fighting these battles that are very close to us. And I think we need a longer vision of where do we want to be. I'd like to, we had some discussion at our meeting last night. I brought it up with Matt about where's our real plan for where is the county government center going to be? Is it going to continue to be here? Is it going to be out where the new courthouse was built? Do we need to start shifting things? You've talked a lot, sir, about having a downtown area. Where is that downtown area? Where do we want that to really be? And how do we plan the utilities and the infrastructure to support these visions? We need a long-term vision so we know how to tailor the comprehensive plan. So there was a lot there to unpack.
A lot there. And there's been some, even properties that we have, myself and others have talked to people who may in the future be wanting to sell, but those things, of course, are private. You're not going to bring those things up in a meeting. there's other, that we've kicked around the idea of where and that's what we'll be doing the second part of the meeting, where the school board meets. Are we going to keep that structure? Are we going to get rid of that structure? So, and then that is a domino effect. And okay, where are you going to put them? So is the old courthouse feasible? Can we fix the old courthouse? If that isn't fixable, are we tearing that down? So where the downtown is going to happen is going to take place by the decision we make to do with the structures we have right here, right now. A lot of it is, But as far as I'm concerned, is my growth, and then Mr. Metz, I would like, I want King George to grow organically and not by force. If you want to know what my definition of rural is, a part of it is it's when it grows organically, people come in, they buy a piece of property, they build themselves a house. I don't force growth is large housing developments and things of that nature, and they've done nothing but put a strain on this community because we didn't have the means as far as businesses to pick up the tax bill, because residential houses they cost you money. They don't bring money. You don't care what people try to tell me. I've done the math plenty of times and it just doesn't work out. But so that's organic growth. That's the way it was the whole time I grew up here, just organic growth. And now it's become more forced as of late, it appears. Mr. Metz.
I was going to go back to the how do we do this, right? I think part of the benefit of bringing on a consultant to help with this is community engagement. If you asked 5 of us on the board, we're going to give you 5 visions and there'll be overlap. I mean, we've all known each other long enough that there's probably good overlap there, but we're going to probably argue about the 3 or 4 things that each of us is near and dear to, and you would spend all night trying to get an answer out of us. What's the vision? There's not a vision. There's 5 variations of visions, but that's just us. I'm going to echo what Sully said, which was this really should be what does the community want? And I would love to see a handful of probably kickoff meetings with the community, whether that's Mary Wash or the library here, find one of the other places where we could put some stuff up, maybe lead the conversation with some of the big blow-ups of the graphics that are in the comp plan now, and some statements about, hey, here are some of the thoughts. Like I threw out a thought about a definition of rural, but really what I want to get back out of this comp plan update is what's the community engagement say our definition of rural should be? And then we can abide by that, right? We're just elected officials, right? We all work for the voter. And so, use the resources that we have to help collect some of that data. Maybe we've got a great social media engagement here, maybe some surveys along the way. And before I get misquoted on the Route 3 West thing, I did not say make it any bigger. So the part of this needs to be a good thought process about where are the infrastructure and resources the county has, whether that's fire and rescue, first responders, the water and sewer, major roads. I don't want any more stoplights either. So that would be my suggestion on how to do this, to get this rolling.
I'm just going to give a quick follow back. We were doing the comp plan. It was started in 2017, just before I came on the board. But I know when I came on the board, they had a lot of community engagement, and it was very enlightening. And I think the community was talking about what kind of restaurants would they like, what would the young people like in the community. And I think that's important to put in this comp plan because, this, if we do a vision, which I agree with Mr. Nicely, 2030, 2040, 2050, like a lot of other localities, we need to know what the people that live here and will be living here long after we're probably gone would like in the comp plan and work towards. So that's my thought.
Mr. Sullivan, do you have anything to add?
No, not at
All
this time. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sure the RFP has has a proposed structure, number of public meetings, poll surveys, and those proposals. So I think we'll know what we can pay for it when we know. Is it possible to get a copy of the RFP?
Of the RFP, so we understand. Yes.
It's online. Yep.
It's online. If you'd like us to get it to your copy, we can get that to you.
A link would be fine.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I'm a big believer in this kind of planning. It's as much of a consensus building exercise that we may not all agree, but we all understand why these decisions were made. And I think public input is essential. And I really encourage formation of groups, subgroups, to the extent the RFP will support, for the military, for the settlement area clarification, redefinition. I think Supervisor Met's idea about what should a new neighborhood look like that isn't a development. I think another Fairview Beach, Matthias Point is beautiful and undeveloped. Really need a boat ramp. But there are plenty of places around the county where that can be the vision of a downtown, of a town center, market and sports tourism and agritourism. How can we, leverage those? So there's certainly an economic development component, community input component, and housing build component. And I'm really excited to be part of this project.
I think we all agree on, like, part of what draws people to King George is a lot of people know how great King George is as far as the history that's been here. And really, we've been really a lot better at promoting those things, and, the agritourism, we all kind of buy into those aspects of things that we'd like to do. Give people a reason to come visit our town, which is going to bring more businesses in a sense on this end of town. Some of the, the things that we're thinking about going in, like as far as like the data center goes in. I know if the data center goes in up here, you're probably going to get they're going to have to eat somewhere because they work 24 hours. So there's going to be some pop-up fast food's going to pop up on Sealston side of town or something. There's going to be other people getting engaged just from those things expanding out that way.
So we all have the big ideas, but I really want to focus on the process for that. And I know that the public engagement is going to be super important. And I know that we have a contractor that's going to be helping with that. I also know that the short time that I've been involved in the Planning Commission, I've learned a ton that I don't think the general public knows. And so putting information on a website about what the future of our service authority is going to look like, what our water needs and limitations are, because that's going to create boundaries even to organic growth. And for us to make some determinations about what is best suited, with traffic and everything, like we can to some degree organize the potential growth in a way that's best for everybody. So, some of the comp plans that I've been looking at recently that have been redone in other communities have the goals, but then they have specific policies underneath that say how we're going to get there. And so I know one of the things that's been very current is the conservation information that we're still trying to learn a lot more. I would love for you guys to either listen to Lisa Beaver's presentation she gave last night or invite her to make a presentation to you. But looking at how we can incorporate these ideas into the comp plan, I think we are ready to create a committee to dive deeper into what that could look like and what the benefits would be. So I don't want to go down any roads that you guys don't think are going to bear fruit, but we're ready to put the time and the effort into digging deeper to find out what resources and information and how it's going to affect our future.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yes.
Sorry. So I've heard the term committees thrown around a bunch, and I do think, I think I've been real clear after that. I think that we need interaction with the public and feedback. It's got to be positive interaction, though. Two-way interaction, if you will. And where I'm going with that is it's real easy to put out there, this sucks, change it, in a survey with no suggestion on what you really want. If you read Facebook, this, depending on what part of Facebook you're looking at, this is one of the most awful places in the world that people can live. I want to have a two-way conversation with folks. We're going to have to get creative on how we do that. But you're right, Denise. Some of the people aren't aware of, what they're asking for. They don't understand the fiscal or infrastructural limitations that they're dealing with when they want these things. But putting it on a website ain't going to help. I mean, it may, a small handful of people may read it, but it's been my experience so far that you almost have to have an actual conversation in order for people to come around. That being said, committees are great, but if we put together too many committees, the thing is going to get slow rolled into oblivion. I mean, we're already late on getting it done, so I don't want to do a halfway effort on it, but at the same time, I don't want to get paralysis by analysis by having way too many committees that are trying to get it just perfect when an 80% solution will do.
Thank you, Mr. Sullins.
Just a couple of comments, and just from my personal perspective. I mean, 20 years ago, one of the comments coming out of the Board of Supervisors at that time was a desire to reach 30,000 occupants in the county. It was based on the idea that you had to have that many before certain businesses would relocate here, particularly restaurants, service type industries there. So, I mean, I was hoping that we could get some overarching kind of comments out of, the Board of Supervisors, either collectively or individually, about, where do you see us, not 3 years from now, but 15, 20 years from now, because it'll take a long time to get there. And what I hope we don't do is start, every time we do one of these exercises, we change the direction we're going. So, I mean, I don't know what the number is, but do you want growth? When we did the prior community development plans, we were working under that kind of understanding that growth would happen whether we wanted to or not. At one time, we wanted growth, and we loosened up a lot of the requirements so that it could occur. If we don't want growth, or we don't want to do it, I mean, that'll give us a direction on how to deal with the ordinances. One of the things we did was we sort of accepted the idea that managed growth was going to happen whether we wanted it or not, as you said, organically. Somebody has a piece of property, somebody comes in, and by right, they build a house on it. So you're going to get growth. We took the approach of trying to manage that growth by establishing, certain areas where we wanted the growth to occur, development areas. And we wound up with 4 or 5 of them scattered around the county in areas that seemed to make sense to us. It does need to be widened out to look at industry and light or heavy, clean or not so clean, whatever you want to call it. But also, where do you want commercial activity? Do you want commercial activity? I guess I was hoping that we could get some comments out of the Board of Supervisors on those kind of larger overarching kinds of directions that we would take the county. Prior plans have had multiple meetings with county residents in different areas of the county to draw comments from each of the county residents who wanted to bring something up. But you also got to bring in the major stakeholders, the base for one. We can do whatever we want out here, but the base is going to drive itself, and we need to have some idea where they think they're going. The Board of Realtors have thoughts about, what they want to see done. So the RFP, I'm sure, by the time you get to writing out the contract with whoever you hire, they're going to bring some experience and help us through those meetings and stuff, because the ones I've seen in the past have all been relatively similar. So I can't imagine this one is going to be drastically different. But, there's a lot of input coming in. I personally would hold off on setting up a whole bunch of committees on how to execute things until we have some sense of what we really want to execute. And and you start big picture and you build underneath it. You know, there's the goals, and then there's the strategy on how to enact those goals. And then you get down into the minutia of setting up committees to actually put things in place to encourage it. When I came on this board a long time ago, I came in with an attitude of military planning where, you know, as a player in that, I could actually make things happen. And one of the things I had to grasp was, we're not going to build very much by ourselves. It's going to be the developers who come in and actually make all this come to fruition. So what do we put in the plan to tell them what we want and where we want it? I mean, there's a lot of people sitting around these tables, and each one of us have a different idea of what we want. Somehow we got to distill that down into some kind of overarching kind of direction. And it doesn't have to be an agreement by everybody, but it should be big enough that we could sort of get consensus on it. So I was hoping we could get some of that, you know, from the board. Some of it will come from the residents. Some of it will come from the major stakeholders. And if this goes as it has in the past, we'll have plenty of meetings to sort of distill out which ones seem viable and which ones don't, and which ones we want and which ones we don't want. So I think we let this process play out for a little while. I hope that we would have multiple meetings with the Board of Supervisors to discuss the direction we see it headed and see if that's consistent with where you guys see it heading.
All right, thank you. Mr. Messer, you have something?
So at the end there, I think some checkpoints along the way. We put you on our agenda. So I'm guessing that'd be okay. You know, along the way, just get some up checks, or so you can get some feedback on questions that maybe come up as you've engaged with the public. I'm going to echo what was said earlier about organic growth. I think that's a good objective, right? Growth's gonna come, right? It's interesting. You said 30,000. We're at 28. So from 20 years ago, they were pretty visionary on where we would end up. I think the growth has been a little bit slower the last couple of years. I think that's not just us. I think that's kind of across the board. But given our location with 301, you know, it's coming. Throughout my campaign, the thing that echoed with everybody that I met with was targeted compatible growth. And so that's where I'm looking for the Planning Commission to help with what are those compatible areas and compatible uses. Commercial near Dahlgren makes sense. Commercial from Arnold's Corner through the downtown corridor makes sense to me, right? I think there's a big push on more of a downtown field. I have no idea what that would look like. Probably some mixed use development would be perfectly okay by me. I think we do need a bigger diversity of housing, you know, some, you know, I'm not going to say higher end, but nice townhouse developments where somebody might want to retire and somebody else is going to cut the grass. But those are ideas, right? So I would throw those ideas out. I'd be happy to bring them to one of the public sessions with the public and say, look, this is what I'm thinking about. Let's hear what everybody else would like to contribute to this, right? And the comp plan has to be kind of generic, right? It can't be too, like, look, this one little property. Well, now you've just said one property owner gets all the wins, right? I do think some revision of the Arnold's Corner to downtown area is prime for a relook in the comp plan. At the end,
301 down, right?
or the 3 and 301 intersection, you're right. Yeah, so does that get incorporated into the downtown area, or is that its own little thing over there on 3 and 301? Because there's infrastructure there. I do think whatever we do, that targeted compatible growth thing has to be aligned with the infrastructure we already have, or at least was in with the near-term vision of what we have for infrastructure.
I concur with that.
Yeah.
Ms. Bender?
One other thing we have to keep in mind is what's happening down in Richmond, because there are quite a few bills that are still alive that would have us in our comp plan have to show 1.5, I think it's 1.5% housing stock every year for 5 years to equal 7.5%. It also, another bill I think that's still out there is any commercial or industrial park could be by right for apartments. So we also have to be mindful, there's some bills that are still floating out there that might be signed by the governor that also might affect our comp plan. And that is going to have to be factored in also.
Part of, you talk about, like, I guess, bigger houses. The people I talk to are more what I call starter home communities. Yeah, okay, where we're talking about, and finding the developer that wants to work and do that. So we designate an area where it's just a nice neighborhood with small modular homes in it, but it's where a single family or two people just got married can go buy a house and stay in King George. That's what I'm talking to developers about. But developers nowadays, they want to make $100,000 a house. That's the goal, whenever they build a house. So this happens a lot faster. They're built, you prefab, throw them up, boom, boom, boom. You got it in a nice little neighborhood, but it's a starter home. I'm more leaning towards that way than I am apartments. I think apartments just historically in King George, what do apartments turn into in King George? What does that area turn into? It turns into a crime scene. There have been places, and I talk about the place behind Sheets where the fire was a few months ago. When that place first was built, it was all my friends lived in there. There were single people who worked on the base, but they don't live there anymore. And now it's just people moving over from, Maryland or wherever else. And, they'll pack 5 kids in an apartment or whatever. And everyone's got to live somewhere. I totally understand. I totally get it. But I'm not looking at throwing up a bunch of apartment buildings around here either. That's not in the vision scope. I don't think it fits our community and what we're looking to do. But at the same time, I think starter homes is something I'm open to. I talk to developers about it all the time. People that come here go, well, have you thought about doing this? But it doesn't make them enough money.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yep.
On the thing about considering the bills that are out there in Richmond right now, I disagree. This is King George's vision for King George's future. The bills down there, they're going to come and go, and quite honestly, it's really none of their business. I mean, yeah, there's going to come a point where, we have to adjust and do what the state government tells us to, but I don't want to plan our vision based on the knuckleheads that are in office down there now and the crazy ideas that they've come up with, because in 4 years, heck, in 2 years, that may all change again. And we're looking to try to build something that's going to go out, as we've said before, 10, 20, 30 years, and it's not binding. It's not law. It's a guide. It's, our vision of where we want to go. But I don't really care what somebody in Richmond thinks about that.
Thank you. And every decision we make affects, every decision we make. So we start talking about designating areas where maybe we want to build housing development. Well, then we have to reach out. We got to bring the school in it and go, where are you guys at right now? And where do you see growth at? And luckily growth there has kind of slimmed off and it's not where we thought it would be. So, what can we do to answer some of those questions? Because every decision we make is going to affect the taxpayers on something else we got to build, or law enforcement, fire, whatever. Schools are going to be affected. So every decision we make based on that is not just something we put in a comp plan, but it's going to affect everyone,
So because it's my nature to plan, it's just part of who I am. What I'm talking about is anticipating those needs rather than being reactionary to them. So instead of saying, oh, we have these houses, now we have to build a school, plan where the next school is going to be, because eventually it's going to be needed. And so start thinking way ahead. And this is not my vision that I want to see for King George, but what I'm afraid is going to happen is that we're going to have 10 or more years of construction traffic between us and Fredericksburg with data centers, not just the ones that we've planned for, but there are numerous ones that are on the table to be presented to Stafford County. And for every site, we have not looked at the cumulative effect of what the traffic is going to be. And so instead of taking 25 minutes or 35 minutes, depending on where you live, to get to Fredericksburg, where we all have to go for doctors, for a lot of our retail, and then we spend our money there, because once we have to go there, we're eating out and we're stopping at the store, we're spending our money. I think what's going to need to happen is we're going to have to be a little liberal with what we can put in commercially and what we might need medically to serve our community. And so I just want us to be forward thinking. And I think there needs to be a balance between that organic and not being reactionary to, oh, this happened, and so we have to now plan for it.
Like
And
the
we
one about
have
the medical
begun-
needs, because that's something that we've talked with the Northern Neck folks when Mr. Davis and I talked with them a few months ago. That's a big concern across the Northern Neck, is where do we go for quality care? Because our county, we're pretty much committed. We've got to go to Fredericksburg, and we don't have an ER. So Denise, I appreciate your point there of thinking forward and maybe trying to bring something in, because as the traffic gets more and more congested, it creates more risk for the individual to get where they need to be for the care that they need. And also, if we do have enough growth, maybe we look at bringing a proper ER or even a hospital into our area.
Yeah, we've been in talks with that already. And I think one of the things that stopped us was we thought there was a 2 million or whatever water leak in the Dalgan area, because we were in conversations with people to bring them here. And the way we're pitching it now is they're not pitching, we only have 27,000 people. We're pitching them the Northern Neck. And the Northern Neck has partnered with us in doing this, just like there's nowhere to go sewage right now. So we're working on the Dalgan plant in order to upgrade it to be a place where sewage can come for all the Northern Neck, where we make money on it to help pay down the service storage, things of that nature. And they've been overwhelmingly wanting to be our partner. It's not like they really want to. And their own words to me is, we really look up to you guys in King George. And so they're not, and we met with the Virginia, what's the Virginia group I met with them. So that they have an idea for the first time ever. I think we met with them one-on-one here at the office, and they pitched the idea of what we're looking to do and what we're looking for them to help bring here if things get pitched to them. So those things have started. The school site is going to, where we tore down the old middle school, I think we've talked about enough. We plan on putting a loop road in right there that's going to connect from 206. We'll connect from 301 all the way around so that the buses can get off the main highway, and the next school site is most likely going to be over in that section. So we're planning those out. The next section of our meeting tonight is determining a lot of those things too, right? Of what structures are we going to build now with the VOTEC building and Ralph Bunchen Historical Society, and where are we starting now? And so for the first time, because we got tired of, someone would come, Mr. Young would come to a meeting and go, yeah, we got this new bill for such and such. And I'm like, well, how long do we know this was a project? Well, it's been on the project for 2 years, but it's just now coming up to where we realize that now we got to pay the bill on this thing that we didn't never know that was on the project. So now we have an idea of all the projects that are in the pipeline for King George. Next step, what we're doing tonight is what buildings are we looking, what structures are we looking to build? Are we looking to buy land for future development for the county itself? What are we looking to do? And then plan those things out. So we're going to cast a vision. Now, no board's going to be bound to it after us, but we're going to cast a vision probably for the next 10 years, maybe, of what buildings, when they're going to be built and how, and so the taxpayers, we can be prepared for them going forward for the future. That's what it's all about, as opposed to buildings sitting around and rotting like they've done for years here in this county. And so we don't want that happening anymore. So we're going to put a vision out, which buildings, number 1, number 2, number 3, buy land, what downtown area, what is it, and what's that going to look like? The VOTEC is going to answer a lot of the problems for the school. They're not over capacity, they're good, but we built a VOTEC facility for them, a nice building, and you're looking at a 2-story building, and you're probably looking at 200 kids that will now be in and out of that building right there, which is going to take down the capacity of the high school. So the middle school, I'm not worried about that. I mean, we got lots of room there, but those types of things are the future that the problems we're trying to deal with now. It's better than building a $57 million school that I don't think we need right this very second. And the school has come to the same conclusion. So, Mr. Metz.
And as you're engaging with the public, right, like the schools, Sealston was built to be added onto, right? So there is excess capacity there that if we need to expand, particularly that elementary school, we can, right? King George Elementary, not as good a story. And then you look at Potomac, you're kind of boxed in there. You can't do that, right? So we should probably capture those thoughts in this process, whether it ends up in the comp plan or not, but it should definitely feed back into our CIP planning. You know, how do we address fire and rescue in Shiloh? Right. Probably some COLAs there that on the long-term plan, we need to think about what should, yeah. It's going to be back and forth.
Did we muddy the
Stay tuned.
waters tonight, or do we help at all? I don't know what we're doing.
Muddy the water.
It's great to hear the commitment of the board for a real comprehensive scrub instead of just, a review and say, carry on.
Yeah.
That's great guidance. Having board participation throughout the process, either a single member or volunteer, to keep us from diverging from your thoughts and plans for property acquisitions and concentrations of community government, civil activities. I love the idea of a hospital, I got to tell you.
Yeah, I do too.
And small houses. I think seriously thinking about a single family home, small lot development cluster might be a way to answer the entry level housing. But I really thank the board for their insight and their continued work for the benefit of the county.
I think what would be beneficial, and if you guys would agree to it, we have, as a board of supervisors, we have done a retreat before where we went to AP Hill and we met for hours and we had lunch. And instead of trying to cram something in like this and it's all formal and whatnot, I think it might be beneficial for us to get a retreat together with you guys to go to a location and spend a day, might have to miss work, spend a day and just really from 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock, just have lunch together and just pinpoint what we really want. Just have, without the microphones and everything, just having a conversation, the whiteboards and figuring out what we want, right? So I think that would be helpful. Do you guys think that'd be helpful?
That would be great. And also, I would like to be a resource for you. If there's something that you're like, hey, I want to know more about this, bring me info. I feel like that would be something that we would like to collectively support. There are things that we want to do. And like I said, I don't want to take resources down a road that you guys might not think is important. So what we're looking for from you is how can we support this? We're eager to. We have the time, the intellect. We can read through documents and understand things and give you our feedback and maybe sometimes say, hey, maybe you didn't think how I just learned last night that conservation easements can be a financial benefit to the county. So mind blown. So I just would like to share the information that we know that we can come up with.
Me too. And I appreciate you offering that. And we things that we do at the school board, we do 2-on-2 meetings with them. And it's more time and all, but I don't see why we couldn't do something like that going future. I would like to do something like that after we maybe plan a time for us in the next few months to get together and really hash some things out. I think it'd be beneficial for everybody. Ms. Bender, anything to add?
The only thing I was going to add is I know we've mentioned infrastructure. So when our surface water plan comes out very soon, that's also going to be beneficial because it's for the targeted growth. We need to know where the areas that we probably aren't going to work because we can't get the infrastructure to those areas at this time because of financial reasons. So that's all I was going to add.
Got something sort of related, but I would urge you to relook at the ordinance change that would create interior roads for subdivisions. It was something that was kind of put aside. We recommended that you adopt that portion of the ordinance change and not the other portion. And that's kind of been, I guess, hasn't been looked at again by you guys. So there are also some other small ordinance changes that I think might need to be tweaked. And again, we would be happy to work with the planning office to come up with some solutions to present to you.
Thank you, Denise. I appreciate it. You're good. He's all ears tonight.
Just a quick, so we can understand the schedule for this. You're going to send us the RFP so that we can look at the more details, but can you give me a general idea of what is the timeline that you put in that RFP? You know, this could go on for 3 months if we do it quick. It could go on for 1.5 years if we get into details. I don't know what you all put in.
So the sealed proposals will be received until 2 p.m. on March 2nd. So that's okay. That's the first kind of deadline. And the way these will typically work is there will be a committee established to review the proposals. We may get 2, we may get 22 in. So if you get 22 40-page documents, that's some time. So you figure a month to review them. So now you're beginning of April, okay? Then you shortlist it, you do your interviews. So now you're probably, mid to late April. And then we need to take something to the Board of Supervisors to approve that contract. Once it's approved by the board, then we work through legal to get that contract. So if that...
Yeah, I was actually asking for the execution, not the start time.
Execution.
You expect the contractor to be with us for 2 years, for 3 months?
Year and a half, 2 years?
18 months to 2 years.
18 months to 2 years is, as we've been through comp plan reviews, I think that's what you're looking at.
That's what I was more curious. How long is 2 years a slow roll in people's opinion? We'll try to accelerate that.
I'd like to offer any other planning commissioners a chance to speak before we adjourn our portion. Yes? No?
I have one concern, and that is I've heard a lot of different kind of statements. So I'm new, and I kind of want to know where everybody is. Pastor Shaw brought up the point about property, farmland becoming very profitable for farmers. And as a home that lives around a lot of farmland that has dangling carrots on top of it, I have a great concern about we hear first-time farmers, we hear people that want to get into that, but the land is becoming so expensive. And I see it as a warning sign, and that's just something that I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, acknowledged, right? And that is something I think maybe you could explore a little bit. Capitalist society, I don't think we can change the price of farmland, but I think there are incentives the county can offer to make it more affordable. We have some ag use and some forested land use provisions within within the assessment side of what we do, right? So I think you should probably relook at the size of the property lots that you have to have in order to have something in, say, forested land use. It's under the land use provisions. But yeah, the comp plan should kind of kick that around and see, are there things we could do to maintain that rural character?
Mr. Sutherland, do you have anything to add? I don't want to ignore you.
No, I appreciate it. I've been jumping in as necessary, so I'm good now. Thanks.
Are you guys ready for me to do second public comment? Or you guys want to continue? You good? So I'm open to the floor for second public comment. Is there anyone that'd like to speak? We already went over the rules. Bob, come on up, buddy.
Well, here in the Charlotte district, just want to make 2 points. First is that the need for an emergency room facility or emergency room facility in King George is critical. I recently had to take the wife up to Lee's Hill because we could not get anything here in King George. We turned down the opportunity a number of years ago to have an emergency room in the county. That was a big mistake, and we need to rethink that quickly. Secondly, I want to point out that as one of the issues affecting the development of small homes is the price of land. Frankly, with the 80 to 90% of our land being zoned A1, requiring 10-acre minimum, it's prohibiting a lot of developers for trying to develop that land into small homes because banks will not finance homes where the land value is more than the house or a higher percentage in the house. you need to consider, is it really going to be farmland we're preserving or just large lots like 5 acres? Is 10 too severe? I've read reports from the National Association of Realtors that says that's slowed development in a number of areas. The zoning was the issue. You need to consider 5 acre lots.
Thank you, Bob. Is there anyone else? Is there anyone online, Mr. Dines?
No, Mr. Chairman.
No correspondence? All right. It says here I got a recess, but I think you guys can adjourn if you like before we go into recess. If you'd like.
All right. I adjourned the King George County Planning Commission meeting combined with the Board of Supervisors on Wednesday, February 11th.
I have here you Tuesday, March 10th.
Until the next meeting on Tuesday, March 10th.
All right. All right, 10-minute pause.
We don't have to.
It's hitting the gavel. Can you hear me? It's amazing. All right, good job. It's magic. All right. Let's get back to it. Are you ready?
I'm ready, Mr. Chairman. All right, Mr. Dines, can we pull up the presentation?
I get a mic check real quick, make sure you guys still hear me.
I can hear you.
We can hear you, Charlie.
Awesome, thanks guys.
All right, so the exercise tonight, I know Mr. Davis alluded to it during the previous portion of the meeting with the Planning Commission, but what we've done here is, really looking for direction from the Board of Supervisors on our major capital projects. Now, I want to put the disclaimer out there that the CIP that we're currently looking at right now has 70 plus projects. They're not all on this list, and there's a reason for that. Really looking at these are our major facilities that are most likely going to require borrowing in some form or fashion, and it's not get a purchase order, purchase WEC, and the item is in 60 days. So these are longer term projects that have a lot to do with facilities, offices, and we'll go through the list. So, Mr. Chairman, what I plan on doing is I've got a presentation, and for the public out there, we're using Microsoft Whiteboard, which allows the board members. So the way it's set up is each board member has a color-coded sticky note with a title of project with an estimated amount. These estimated amounts either came from Mr. Chris Conley here through some estimating software that he has used for his career, and or what was submitted value engineering with the capital improvement plan submittals. There are a couple that don't, and I'll get to those. There's a couple without specific prices, but board, and the public, the goal of this is not to, to figure out when the projects are going to be, when the A&E services are going out, how much we're going to need to borrow, what's that borrowing look like, when's it going to open. We're just looking for identifying your key priorities as a board of supervisors. So we have a vision and some direction as far as staff amongst the county and the schools, so we know where to focus our efforts. So with that, I'm going to start. Mr. Dines, can you start going through, or can I control it here? Let me see if I think I control it here. Let me see. There we go. All right. So here we go, overview of projects, and then we'll go through the exercise. So I'm going to go through these, and we're going to, I'll go through the 14 projects. Feel free to interrupt with any questions. And then what we'll plan is we'll start back. So I'm going to start the VOTEC, that's project number 1. We'll go through the 14, we'll talk about them, and then we'll go back to the VOTEC, and then you guys can start, you can drop your sticky note, and we'll go through them one by one. And we're here to answer any questions. All the staff's here, Dr. Boyd's here. Maybe we should, we got Dr. Boyd, you got Chris Clark, Chief Moody, Chris Conley, and Bryce Young as support to me here to answer any questions from the board. So the first one is the VOTEC building. So, and it's actually a $19 million cost. So what the Planning Commission, and I took this as a public hearing at the Planning Commission last night, and we talked specifically about this. So $19 million was requested in the next fiscal year. Question came up is, Mr. Smolnik, are we really going to spend $19 million next year? I said, well, that's probably a pretty good point. We have to go through A&E services, site plan, and then ultimately construction. So at the recommendation of the Planning Commission, it did receive a number 1 a priority ranking of 1 by the Planning Commission, but they wanted to break it up into not to exceed $2 million next year for A&E services, and then the remaining, $17 million at a later year for construction. And one thing we don't want to do is we don't want to go out borrow $20 million and not use that money for years. We've learned about arbitrage, and based on whatever rate you borrow it at, whatever account that is put in, if there's interest that earns, you may have to pay some of that money back to the IRS. So so that's one thing that they've wanted to do at the Planning Commission. Looking across the table here to Dr. Boyd, it's my understanding the school we're in the final stages of identifying these 6 or so projects, and I'll let you talk a little bit about maybe like where the school's at, with this programming.
Sure, we're pushing ahead. We're excited about a lot of the conversation and the traction we're getting in the community with vocational programming in King George County. So where we are right now, we are conducting visits at vocational centers really across the state. We've already gone to Northern Neck Technical Center, which services everyone southeast of us. It's a beautiful and wonderful vocational program down there. We learned a lot and found out a lot of good programs that we can consider here in King George County. Next Friday, we're going to Caroline. Following Caroline, we're going to go to Smithfield, and they've got a wonderful brand new facility down there. We're going to end this month probably going to Spotsylvania Technical Center, and then at that time, we're going to pull together an ad hoc committee and get some input probably from you guys, from some board members, our instructional staff, and we've pulled all kinds of research, prevailing industries, programs we need to consider. We intend to have all that information pulled together. When we procure an architect, we can deliver to that architect the 6 to 8 programs that we believe we need in the vocational center. That information would be used to build a vocational center around that. I can stop there for any questions.
And then I know there was some discussion already tonight and last night, just maybe hear from you, Dr. Boyd, on the capacity. Should the VOTEC be at a higher priority of the board? What does it do for capacity at the high school?
Yes, sir. So currently, right now, the King George High School was built for 1,500 students. We're hovering right around 1,500 students, give or take 10 students, depending on what day you ask me. So we are seeing the walls tighten up. It's getting close to capacity at the high school. Right now, our elementary schools are in decent shape. As Mr. Davis pointed out earlier this evening, we're seeing an increase in students at the elementary level that's now tailed off a little bit. Our middle school is actually the school division that has the school in our division that has the most capacity. They're at about just over 1,000. That building's built for 1,500. So honestly, the strain in the school division right now is on the high school. This vocational center, in terms of capacity, would create really an outlet for roughly 200 students or more, possibly, depending on how we structure the programs in the vocational center. So not only does this vocational center provide an opportunity for our students to learn new trades and really contribute back to the community, but immediately it provides some relief for the strain we're seeing at the high school in terms of capacity.
Any questions?
Yeah. Have you thought about including in maybe the price or in the thought pattern, the cost for whatever you do with the areas you vacate? Like if you vacate any, like I'm going to give you something like drafting, and you bring it into the VOTEC Center and you want to repurpose those rooms, the cost of the repurposing.
Yeah, so right now that cost estimate, that $19 million cost estimate we received in the feasibility study from RRMM, it's fair to say up front that really is honestly the cost of the building. One of our considerations when we're talking about possible programming in the new vocational center is cost of these programs. Some programs have a very high upfront cost. Some of them don't. We're considering that as one of the factors. I think when we get together in this ad hoc committee, what my desire will be, before we just start throwing ideas and programs out there, is really before that, kind of set a criteria for what it is that we believe are important factors when considering programs going into the vocational center. Cost up front is certainly one that we need to consider. And to your point, we're considering moving some vocational center, creating brand new vocational programs for our students, but also moving some of the existing programs out of the high school to the new vocational center. So cost savings is certainly there when we're moving existing programs over. So that'll all be part of the consideration when we're building that criteria with that committee on the front end.
And also maybe retrofitting some of the, like if you moved welding over there, that area, if you wanted to use it for classrooms, you would have to adapt it a little bit. So is that factoring into your consideration too, if there has to be any modifications to the rooms you're vacating?
Yes, that'll certainly be a consideration, and we'll get there when we get down to the road and decide what programs are going to go. I would say, honestly, in terms of the timeline, what I've instructed my staff is that by the time we, within the procurement timeline, are able to procure an architect, we will be ready through committee meetings and in hand with the 6 to 8 programs we believe are appropriate. Along with that conversation will be all kinds of thought and consideration on what programs are going to move over, what we believe should go into those classrooms that we vacated, and that'll all be part of the whole process that we'll go through. Thank you for the question.
Mr. Sullivan, do you have any questions?
Sure, just one quick one, actually. Dr. Boyd, is it feasible to maybe look at partnering with some of those other training centers and not using their equipment, but getting seats for some of our students in those more expensive things and bringing in programs that they've identified, but they just don't have space for them here, and maybe partnering with them so that we don't have to suck up all that upfront cost for the really expensive things? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something we've actually talked about briefly already. I can tell you one of the things that was beautiful when we went down to the Northern Neck Technical Center is that's an established vocational program that's been in the Northern Neck for years. I don't know how long. And one of the things that you see down there is really this symbiotic relationship that they have between the school and the community and all the businesses in the community. A lot of those students that have made it through those vocational programs are now supporting those businesses in the community. Those businesses in turn are turning around and supporting the school with equipment, supplies, things they need to continue the program going forward. So we're looking at those type of partnerships. Those kind of partnerships, honestly, are very important, especially on the front end of this. I can tell you that our folks that are working in CTE right now, Ms. Kim Truslow, our instructional staff, Terry Rinko, those folks are at the helm right now, really working on establishing a lot of those relationships. When we're going to the other vocational schools, I can tell you one of the questions I'm asking is their interest in partnerships. And I've already spoken to the superintendent in Caroline. So we're considering the programs they have right now and whether or not there can be some type of symbiotic relationship between us and other school divisions that really magnifies the programs we have and expands the opportunities. We're very early on in that conversation. I don't want to make any promises, and there's a lot of conversation that has to go on between now and then, but we're certainly exploring any type of partnership we can. I think the success of a vocational center in our community is going to rest on a lot of those strong partnerships.
Mr. Metz.
Right now, what's the vision for the building as far as flexibility? Because I know you're trying to target 4 to 6 programs to go in there right away, but what I would hate to see is by the time we get it built, it's obsolete, right? Are we thinking flexible use so we can change walls and things, as long as we've got power to do welding and power to do, what you want to do now? What's the sort of concept for this building?
So finding some balance. That was one of the suggestions that we received from RMM is the making sure that you consider the flexibility of the space because of the, in public education right now, one of the mantras we often hear is that we're preparing the students of today for jobs that don't exist yet. We hear that all the time. So making sure that we're prepared to be flexible and adjust is a consideration that we'll have to make when we build this new building. And it's one that it's actually some advice we've received from the architects that we've already worked with in the feasibility study. So certainly something we'll consider.
Awesome. Thank you. I would suggest 1 floor, no elevator based on our recent elevators.
Understood.
Big footprint though.
Well, I'm 2-story metal building, so.
Anything else on the VOTEC building? Can we move on? We're going to come back to this before you guys vote, or prioritize. So I'm going to turn this over. I think these next 2 belong to Chief Moody. No need to talk about them if I got the expert in the room here. So the first one is Fire Rescue Station 4 in the Shiloh District. So Chief, if you would mind, just kind of give them a brief, why we need this and what it would benefit, how it would benefit the county.
Yeah, good evening. So we planted this idea many years ago, and I think most people in the room know that we have 3 stations in our county, serve 185 square miles. Of the excuse me,
of the 185 square miles, the company one covers 113 of the square miles. So what we were looking to do was to put a station that would divide and split that primary first due run district just from company one. Shiloh, county already has land adjacent to the school bus garage. And so years ago, we were putting a placeholder on that land to place the company for Shiloh Station. Now, when I mention that, here's the caveat. Unless the county is prepared to add additional employees and personnel, don't build an empty fire station. Okay, because that's really the part of the decision of when you build a station. You got to have the personnel, you got to have the trucks. So it's more than just a building. The reason being is because you're adding a facility. In Dahlgren, for example, you're replacing a facility. So you already have the trucks and you already have the personnel. Just put this in, we know the roads in our county. Company one across from Food Line covers in its primary first due district all the way from Route 3 at the Stafford County line to Route 3 at the Westmoreland County line. It covers halfway up 301, and it covers all the way down to the Port Royal Bridge. So of that 113 square miles, we believe that as the county is growing, that's a little bit too large. It's no question that if we had a house fire past 3 and 301 intersection, and our trucks are coming from company one and company two, that's a long response. And, time is our biggest commodity, whether it's a house on fire, whether it's a car crash or a person not breathing. If we can knock down that time, the better service and outcome we can have. We did some looking at the numbers. That company 4 district would generate about over 800 calls a year. That's what we're running today. It's over 800 calls a year, which is about 20 to 25% of our total call volume.
That includes Westmoreland County too, or that's not just King George, right? That's
just King George. That's the Shiloh, what we would refer to as the Shiloh. I don't know if you have a map, and I can just show this, but this is 2023 numbers, but this is beautiful. Dr. Ford, everything right now, company one is in the yellow. The orange would be the new company 4. So you can see every one of the red dots is a call that's generated. It could be multiple calls. So it's a vision, it's our goal. I think as we see, thank you, Dr. I think, thank you, Chris. This was a team effort. As we see more people looking to move in that area of the county, they're going to need to call 911, and that's what they're doing. And also if we're, I say that it's a long response for us, and Westmoreland would say, amen. It's a long response for us too. They're east of that.
Yeah. But
if we are near the border of the county, we have to transport a patient to Mary Washington Hospital. I think everybody knows that's an extended response time. So we have a very long time that we're with that patient. I'm happy to answer any questions. Yeah, as I think the board is fully aware, we are in the later part of the design of Company 2 in Dahlgren. That has been our primary focus. That has been our priority. In my opinion, as the chief, when it was, well, which one would you rather have, Chief, Company 2 or Company 4? And I've always stated we have outgrown, and the current Company 2 station is obsolete. We need to get off of Dahlgren Road. So that was the priority. However, as we look ahead towards the future, this is an area that we need to expand at.
And where in the future are you thinking? I know everyone wants, you have a target date of like, say 2030, 20, where are you looking at it?
We have been, in the CIP, I have it projected right now for construction to begin in 2030. So design in that would be design would be funded at FY 29.
Right.
And then construction possibly a year later. Now the other, I don't know, Mr. Smolnick, if you want me to get into the training center part. Awesome. And we're looking to, we want to do our own fire rescue training center that we can possibly expand and partner with some of our neighbors to the east.
Yeah, they're interested in that.
Right.
I've talked to them about that. They're very interested in that.
So right now, we are a partner. We're 33% partner. We have a training center, and it is in Spotsylvania County. And so where it's in Spotsylvania County is and the partners are King George, Spotsylvania, and the city of Fredericksburg. And it is I'm trying to think of the road name, but essentially we have to go past the mall. We have to go past Central Park. If you can imagine how many man hours we spend just traveling to and from, and with all our people, we're running the recruit academies, and a lot of those activities are having to be done at a training center. So we're spending a lot of time just in travel and taking our resources to Spotsylvania County to get from heavy traffic from Lafayette Boulevard to past Salem Church Road. I think anybody in here knows how long that can be when you go in the morning and you come back in the evening. So we want to do that, and we think that there's available land there. We think that we can explore some opportunities for grants. We think that we could, possibly some of those grants could cover the burn building, the training building, possibly some water infrastructure. It wouldn't be a running water and sewer in that area, but it would be, maybe a standalone system if there was no intention or plan to run water there. I know the county at one time was looking to do an industrial park in that location. I don't know where that stands, but we would like the Company 4 building and the training center to kind of look at almost a master plan. And if the station part came a little later, we could still do the training part independently from it, and just as it grows, we could put that right adjacent to that. We'd also have 301 access, I think, in response. So you have 3 and 301. It's right there in a critical area. We could hit responding from there. We could hit route Route 3 East. We could also have land to possibly have a helipad. Right now, when we land a helicopter, we got to either commandeer a farmer's field, land it on the highway, and keep the road shut down, or we could have have that land and have a 100 by 100 spot that's dedicated for landing a medevac. So there's a lot of wins with that, and it certainly starts with a vision, and I think the need is there, and I think the need is going to continue to be there.
Would that, just a quick, by offering, it could make money as far as training other counties, they come here for training, yes? I mean, there's
We could do some charging for it. I don't think it's, I don't think it will turn into a business.
right, yeah.
Yeah, but yes, could we charge for the services? Yes, sir, we could.
Chief, and part of the training too is if we were partnered with the Northern Neck, they might actually provide some of the trainers so that
Yes,
that frees up our staff
yes.
to staff the buildings while the training is underway.
Yes, sir.
Back on the facility side, just out of curiosity, like Fairview Beach, kind of Station 3, kind of small. What's a full staffing load for that station?
Well, right now, we're funded at 4 positions there per shift. There's 3 shifts, so it's 12 funded positions I have for that.
Okay.
So there are times, if you have some vacancies, if you have some sick call-outs or people on vacation, it can dwindle those numbers, depending per shift. But right now, we're funded 4 personnel, and they're running both a fire truck and an ambulance.
Thanks. I was just trying to get an idea of what a minimal staffing level would be, because you said don't want to build an empty fire station.
Yes,
we
yes, sir.
also want to put that in
Yes, sir.
planning for long-term personnel numbers.
And I would say anytime you think about those kind of facilities, I mean really probably the building's the easier part. It's those year after year personnel costs, and
you said you're open to building this training center first
yes,
by itself?
Yes.
Right, okay.
You're talking about the same property, right? The
Yeah.
10 acres? Okay,
Yes.
that makes sense. And it's a big area. You could put a
big
lot
area.
of stuff.
Yes, ma'am.
Would it be in that 10 acres that we originally looked at long ago?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there water to that property?
No.
No, but now with the new upgrades, it could be run very easily. I mean, there's a cost, but it could be run very easily. Correct, Mr. Young?
Yes, ma'am.
It's right down the corridor since we upgraded.
All right, any other questions for Chief? You have anything else you want to add?
No.
I like the idea of, I know right now we're getting ready to undertake Dalgren, right? And I like the idea of the training center, maybe even before that. I like the way that sounds.
Yeah.
Any other thing? So you got a question?
Please. So, is it possible to treat company 4 if we build that up? It sounds like most of your selling points, Chief, early on, we're talking about time and buying time back into getting trucks on station faster. Can we treat that like a forward operating post initially and deploy some of the guys and the equipment from company 1 until we can gracefully build that up in terms of staffing and equipment?
Yes, sir. I think there could be some options we look at, but we would have to be very creative. I do think we could do something as we build on that staffing plan.
Okay. Are there any drawbacks from, excuse me, are there any drawbacks from dropping out of the partnership that we have with Spotsy and Fredericksburg?
Yes, sir. That's a great question, and it still to be determined. I'll say that. I think that what we would probably, my recommendation would probably be is that we would not pay our annual dues of $6,000 per year. That's what we currently pay. And we would retain our percentage, and we could still utilize some things at that training center that we would not have duplicated at ours. So we would still have some use. I don't think we would be able to sell our 33% back to Spotsylvania or the city of Fredericksburg.
Okay.
Maybe, maybe not. To be determined.
All right,
Thank
anything
you.
else? Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
All right, moving on. Next project in the hopper would be the old courthouse demolition. So this, I believe it was September, August, somewhere around there. I made a presentation at the Board of Supervisors after we had an initial assessment done on this particular building across the parking lot. And there were really three different options at that point. It was continue to study the building, issue an RFP to demo it, or issue an RFP to renovate it, with a caveat that if you went with number 2 or 3, you ran the risk of change orders because we did not know fully what was inside that building. So whenever it came time for CIP, and we talked about this last fall, we're going to roll this into the CIP, bring the board back some options. And that's exactly what we did. I mean, Mr. Young and Mr. Conley had some good discussions. And I said, let's put it in for a couple different projects. So I want to make that very clear to the board and to the citizens watching that you'll see a couple here for the demolition. They are separate projects. So obviously you can't demo it if you're going to renovate it. So the first one would be, $550,000 to demo it. And you see, to make way for a town center area or other projects. As a planner by trade, I see a long-term vision for this area. And I think some of us, we've talked about this in one of the other projects with the museum visitor center. If you decide to demo it, this may be an option for how to utilize this area. And we can get into this a little bit greater detail when it comes up on the screen. But the project before you, $550K to demo the old courthouse. Any specific questions?
Just have a quick clarifying so that when we do these sticky notes, we can conceivably, as we go on, some of these have high ticket items, so they could be spread out over several years. If we see it as a priority, the cost for it could be spread out, correct?
You could, and again, a lot of these projects are going to have the VOTEC, if you do a visitor center, company 4, there's going to be a breakout, A&E typically 10% of a project. So you can spread it out. So it won't be the full amount in 1 year.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify,
Yes,
so when I
ma'am.
make my choices.
All right, so if there's no questions on the demo, I'm going to move on to the next project, old courthouse remodel. So I know Mr. Conley, and he's been a great addition to the King George team, and some of the software that he uses as far as and what he's used throughout his career to put price tags on on a building. Mr. Conley, do you want to speak on this one in particular, or is there anything that that's not on the screen that you'd like to add?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward. If the board decides to remodel the courthouse, there's a substantial cost with that. It would include pretty much a gut renovation of the existing building, new HVAC, electrical equipment, plumbing, some additional site work. And then kind of tacked onto this as an addition. So a few months back, Mr. Young had done a space needs analysis. So that cost up there factors in that forward-thinking space needs analysis, not just for a 10-year building, but for a 30 or 40-year building that would get us, we get a lot more runway out of that type of structure for about, I believe it was around a 40,000 square foot facility.
So this would be in lieu of a new county building?
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, at estimated 45 years, we need about 65,000 square foot total. That includes the Rivercom building here.
What's just the remodeling of the old courthouse?
So just a renovation cost, you're looking at about 8 to 10. So about a little less than half of the renovation and addition.
All right.
And I would like to point out, with the space needs analysis, it looks like we will be out of area on day one once we complete that, out of space.
And that's putting who in that building?
That part. Who is not decided yet. I looked at the amount of square foot we need and the amount of square foot we have here, plus the square foot of that building. And as we finish the building, we would be right at that square footage. That makes sense?
Yeah. I mean, this is, I'll let you guys chime in. To me, this is like it's like the first domino in the stack. It's like, what are you going to do with that building? Are you going to, because it determines everything, right? I mean, it's where you start at. It's, are we going to remodel it? Are we going to tear it down? I mean, you're going to get gripes. I hate tearing down buildings that I've been looking at my whole life. It's really hard to even think about. But I'd like to kind of hear from the board about where you guys are at as far as, remodeling the old courthouse. Even at the very beginning, you remodel it and you move the school board over and you tear down that building, which frees up that property, right? So that's one thing we want to do is get that property freed up there. I'd like to just hear from the board where you guys are on the old courthouse, remodeling it or tearing it down.
Hey, Bryce, where's the courthouse compare?
Yes, sir.
How does, square foot wise, how does the old courthouse compare with the size of the new preschool that you're looking at for $6 million?
I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head.
I'd like to know that, because if it's going to cost me $6.5 million to renovate something that's pretty old, and we can knock it down and build something brand spanking new for roughly the same amount of space at a cost savings of $500,000, I would be amenable to that.
I didn't understand what you're saying.
If you look on your list, to build a new preschool is $6 million. To renovate the existing courthouse is almost $6.5 million. If space-wise they're the same, then heck, build 2 preschools and make one of them into the courthouse. Not the courthouse, but you know what I'm saying, the office building that would have been occupied by the people in the courthouse.
Mr. Sons, I don't know if I know that the pre-K was, planned for, I don't know if there was a specific square footage that was, planned for that facility. And I'm looking at Dr. Boyd, I don't, so not that we recall, it's not a comparison, 24,000 square foot for this and a 1,000 square foot for that.
How do we get the number
From a design standpoint on that preschool building, I know there's documents out there and guidance from different firms that would provide, data on if you're having a certain number of students in here, you need to allocate this many classrooms, this many bathrooms, this much space. But I haven't seen anything come through the county on what those actual needs are for that building, as far as size and space.
Then $6 million is kind of a flag right now, then.
Yeah, and just to point out that what you've got on the PowerPoint's different than our sticky. Our sticky was like the base, like don't add anything onto it. Just got it. It was like 6.5 mil. And you've got 23.9 up there, so.
For the old courthouse remodel, that's the remodel and the addition together. That's those 2 combined costs. I'm not seeing
I think it's proven their point. There's a lot of unknowns when you're going into an old building.
Right.
And when they did that analysis, there were still people occupying that building, so they couldn't really look behind the walls and really see all I remember is all the people that are now in the new courthouse that told me they could breathe a lot better since they've been over there. So someone who now has a little bit of a compromised immune system, I would want to make sure we had a newer building, but to make sure that we preserve, especially the bricks of that courthouse, because in the research that I've done, those bricks came from the 1820s courthouse when they put some of them in there. So we need to do something to preserve those bricks, if it be like, I know Mr. Smolik has some ideas, Ms. Southall has some ideas, all of us have some ideas, but to somehow preserve that at least, because they are from the original building that, unfortunately, if you look in some of the documents that Vic Mason's grandfather wrote, we didn't take care of stuff in King George going back to the Civil War. I mean, that courthouse in the 1820s one was like falling in when they built the 1922 courthouse, and people complained about the price of that, and I think it was only $23,000. So we got to make sure whatever we do, we make sure we take care of it from now on. So I guess in the end, I would be for tearing it down to bit, but making sure we preserve.
Any other comments? We're ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay. Next one, new administration building. So another option that's out there is that the Rivercombe building out to the west was, meant to be added on to. And we've looked at this and, from a planning standpoint, again, a reform planner, don't know if I'd add right onto it, but rather build a new building next to it with a covered, a walkway between the two to create a sense of place. If we're thinking of this is the kind of one of the focal areas for the county. And with the new administration building, this would bring the school board over here. This would bring our social services, who we rent right now, IT and engineering. So we got a cost estimate, $26.8 million. And we actually owned, for those who don't know, when you go on the GIS, there's the chunk of land down the parking lot. And then if you go to the north, there's substantial land back there. So, some people may say, well, Mr. Smolek, you're going to lose a lot of parking if you build here. There's ample room for parking and stormwater up to the north. Preliminary, looks at this. So the 27 million would be to house all of the one-stop shop for everybody and to get us out of our leases that we're in. And then, again, rather build a building for 50 to 70 years and have it rather than on a year-to-year lease, kind of at the mercy of the landlords. So any specific questions on this project for a new administration building?
This is adding on to the building.
You could add on, or again, it could be a building right next to it with a covered walkway, creating a sense of place between the
It'd be attached by that, though.
That is correct. Yes, sir.
I know you envision like a lunch area out there and whatnot, maybe. Or...
Yeah, I see a covered area, with landscaping, a seating area, and if we'll get into the bigger vision for this, if this is into play by the Board of Supervisors.
And that's mostly in lieu of what we do at the old courthouse.
That's correct.
Would that also include bringing in some, like social services where we pay rent, like bringing them into the fold?
That's right. So that's correct. You really want social services in your building because there's state money that comes to help pay down, that lease or the note. So it's good to have social services in a county-owned building.
All right. You should switch spots with them.
I'm packing my box tomorrow.
You told me. All right.
All right, moving on. So Central County Storage Facility. So this was on, I know Dr. Boyd had this on his CIP last year where it started, really getting us thinking. Does the county or can the county partner with the schools for a central storage facility? So instead of buying paper by the box or supplies by the box, now we can buy it by the pallet. And going back to my Boy Scout days, I see this as you get a quartermaster and you get all the supplies there and they check them out to school or county facilities. Now, looking at this, we took the school's initial proposal, then we thought about how big would this need to be for a shared facility? We came up with a 40,000 square foot facility at $5.27 million. So this would be to build. There are some options out there, some potential of maybe purchasing other buildings in the community to serve this purpose. But for the exercise tonight, we're just going to keep building a new facility on the table. Some of the questions that we've talked about are location. Some people have thrown out, well, can we use the old middle school location where we tore it down? Okay, so now you're putting that signal out there by the Sheets and the Liberty in play with everybody going to pick up their materials with the trucks, delivering them. Another option would be, possibly the down where Chief Moody alluded to, next to the school bus garage. That may be easier on and off for deliveries and kind of out of the way. You're not going through one of the most congested intersections in the county. So locations to be determined. But all in all, I think this is a worthwhile effort or a good opportunity for the schools and the county to partner together for one shared facility.
One thing I would like to add on there, and I thought about this today, is if we had a facility like that, I know there's a lot of moving pieces, especially for tearing down buildings and renovating other buildings, but offering the three, the Ralph Bunche Alumni Society, the Historical Society, and the Dogger Heritage Museum, someplace to store their artifacts that are right now draining their coffers, to be able, if we're going to have possibly them all together in one location, and it benefits the community in the county with a visitor center, welcome center, whatever, that in this facility, we could also have a place for them to at least store their stuff so that that cost is not borne. Just an idea I wanted to throw out. I thought about it this morning.
Not to be the downer on this one, but you got to put your business hat on. How many reams of paper do we really save this money if we're paying the electricity to heat, cool, secure this, clear the snow when it snows, right? So there's a reason Amazon's in business and all the other logistics distribution companies that we work with, right? Because they do it all for you, and it's on-demand delivery. And the argument you've made tonight, I kind of understand why we would have come up with this as an idea, but I think you need to put, this one needs some homework. Does it really make sense? We are storing a load of material left over from radio upgrades and, materials here or there. I think the one that probably makes sense, I know the school stores, chairs for events that they have, right? Again, there's reasons event planning companies are in business because they do all that for you. Yes, it's expensive for any one event. When you stack it all up, and what do we have to pay for those things to sit idle months on end so that we can use them a couple times a year? Does it really make sense for us to be in the business of storage? So just think about it. Not saying no, but you made the argument for me yet. So
The caveat I would throw to that is if you go over the courthouse, there's a lot of files that we have to store, and some of them are legally required that we have to store them for a certain amount of time. And if we get rid of that building over there, where do they go? They need to go in a climate controlled facility because we don't need to be paying for storage anymore. Because I know there are documents specifically for the courthouse that have to be stored for a certain amount of time. They can't be destroyed until time. And I know we have service authority stuff over there, county stuff. They were all in storage facilities, and now they're sitting over there.
All right, I'm ready to move on. Mr. Clark, I want to let you take the lead on this one.
Yeah, so Sedell Brooks Junior Park is the only major park in the county without flush restrooms. A number of years ago, I don't recall exactly which fiscal year it was, this item was approved. It was funded through either ARPA or CARES Act money. So when we got to the deadline of spending that, and we did not have water lines yet into the park, finance elected to pull that project back with the county administrator. Both those folks aren't with us anymore, but they pulled that back rightfully. I believe that funding moved to some of the interconnect projects, which were very important for the service authority. It's our top scoring park. It's our most popular park. Every time we do a survey, it's the one, in particular for adults, that scores the highest. The kids sometimes, Sealston or Barnesfield wins out based on what sport they play, but it really would be a good upgrade. The challenge and why we have $850,000 is water and wastewater connections are now at the top of the hill, at the corner of Ridge Road and Henry Griffin Road. But last calculation I got from engineering was it's approximately $1 million a mile to run those water lines. And so we're looking at almost half a mile to get down to the end of the baseball field where we would put this facility. There are green options where you can rainwater collect. We already have the power in the park, so we wouldn't have to do the solar panels. And you could do it as a vault where local services would still come in and pump it out every week, because a force main coming out of there is going to be a challenge because it kind of sits in a hole. And obviously we know that waste will be going back to Hop Yard now. But that's the big problem. It's the one thing we just don't have down there that would really make that park great.
I didn't see it in this CIP plan, but I thought there was some upgrades to the transfer station as well. Any other options for getting water there to the park?
Not the, I mean, there is an irrigation well on site, so we could, I don't know what it's rated at.
Yeah,
We pretty much use that to water the native plant garden or the trees when we have extreme drought. It was put in so we could use water reels on the Bermuda grass. It's not sufficient.
So my other question would have been, have you looked to see if there's new grant money that would be available for doing this? ADA access?
I have not dug into that. I mean, it would be worth investigating, yeah. And I could do that.
I know, as I've heard from a lot of people, they would like restrooms there, especially those that feel very uncomfortable about using porta potties, or you have little kids and it's very difficult, especially when you're at a sporting event, to get your kid in the porta potty to, you know, and think about that. A lot of people, the citizens would like, I know a lot of people walk there, would like at least some kind of restroom facility for that park.
All right, you good, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
So staying with Parks and Rec, we've got our friends here in the audience from the Historical Society and from Ralph Bunch. So, Mr. Clark, you want to continue on this one? You got a couple here in a row.
Yeah, so the Ralph Bunch High School is on the National Historic Register and the Virginia State Historic Register. In 2023, maybe it was 2022, we finished an updated business plan for the building with the Ralph Bunch. We had a Ralph Bunch Advisory Committee formed by the Board of Supervisors. Ms. Binder was on it. I've been on it, formerly our Economic Development Director, and then members from the Alumni Association, the Historical Society, and the community. And Visualize and Rise and the Alumni Association both have memorandums of understanding with the county with fundraising goals. Wiley Wilson helped us at the time, and they came up with a $10 million rehab cost to renovate both the school building and the auxiliary building, which was their VOTEC center in the 50s. In that, obviously, one of the main components would be the history of the road desegregation in King George County. Many don't know that the case here was one of the cases that helped spur Brown versus Board of Education and was, I believe, was enjoined, if I understand the history right, with that case. It's an extremely important facility to the community. There's a lot of potential on the site. We own that lot is much bigger than just the cleared area that we have. There's a lot of property there now. There's some topography issues as you go back, as there are pretty much anywhere in King George County. But both those groups with their MOUs, the potential to do some Parks and Rec programming in there. We talked about possibly moving the cooperative extension in there at one point to give it a full-time resident, because that's another county-supported office that rents space. Lots of opportunities, and then using the field as well. At this time, the field's used for Parks and Rec soccer for some practices. Not our best field, but maybe not our worst field, because we just need as many rectangles as we can. But there's a lot to do in that facility. And I know there have been some conversations going around about possibly putting all of the history of King George in one place and possibly expanding that museum from just being our road to desegregation to being more of King George from I don't know, back to 1200 to modern day, so that we were celebrating all the history, our progress with desegregation, our colonial history, our Native American history, and then also possibly the base history.
My question, though, just forgive me, the new visitor center, that museum, I mean, wouldn't that alleviate that if we took Ralph Bunch and made it into the Ralph Bunch Historical Society Event Center? Make that name as long as you want. I don't know how you want to make it, but.
So this is the one that you and I have discussed across the parking lot here.
Right.
So this will be so without jumping ahead, so an idea that is on the table would be, if the old courthouse were to be demolished, a new structure goes up there again to start to create a sense of place. It's, we're looking to create that downtown, and the analogy I use is when you throw a rock in a pond, the ripples are going to go outward, right? Well, why doesn't the county be that rock to start the transformation of the Route 3 corridor for this downtown? So my vision is if you've ever been in a Virginia Welcome Center on the interstate, you walk in, a common area in the middle, picture one side where, you have the museum portion, the other side, tourism, economic development offices with a common area. You can have events there. So that's an idea that I have for this area over here. So yes, to answer your question, if that is a priority of the board, we could work in all of our museums in one central location here. Again, bring everybody here to downtown King George, get out, visit the tourism office, see the sites, learn the history of the community, and then go out from there to see the sites.
Thank you. And Claudette, you might know this. So I believe that there was a portion of work that had to be done in order for us to be open for more grants. Is that right?
So there's a.
You can step up to the mic. You come on up. Both of y'all come up. Come on up here. Yes, there's the E on the end of that. Yeah, there is. We got it close.
So you have the president, myself, of the Ralph Bunche Alumni Association, and Renee is also the vice president of the Ralph Bunche Alumni Association, and she's the president of the Historical Society, okay? So it was originally $8 million, and we, as an advisory committee, the King George Ralph Bunche Advisory Committee decided we'd bump it up to $10 million. So if we fell short, we would hit the $8 million. So it's not a true $10 million. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay. But there was a portion of work that if we,
yes,
in other words,
because
so open this up.
They give grants for active things. We wrote the grant before and got $500,000 to put the roof on the building to stop all that. And somewhere along the line, we lost a grant writer, but Mr. Smolnick decided he was going to help us write grants, which he has yet to do. Boo, hiss. And so they're looking for things to actually happen. They want shovel in the ground action in order to do these grants. We put in for one we didn't get because there's nothing where someone could come in and do a tour to see anything, whatever. So we've got to get something.
So that's how Lisa Hall with the Northern Neck Tourism Group is a grant guru. I mean, she is a facilitator of grant ideas and facilitator to help with those applications with not just our group, but with many groups across the Northern Neck. So her conversation with me was that if the building was open at all, if you just had a foyer and you could open the doors and you had a foyer and you had a little welcome foyer there that could display the history of Ralph Bunche High School.
Kind of like out there.
Uh-huh. Yeah. That's all it would take. And then she would be able to open the floodgates of grant opportunities to us. But she cannot do that without the building being open to the public. It just has to be open. It doesn't have to have some minimal square footage of what's open. You just have to be able to go in it.
And I can also say that we have some other resources in the pipeline for willing, like Dominion Power for fiber optics, but they can't put in fiber optics. We have mold and what else? Asbestos and that sort of thing. So we've got to have a working area. If, for instance, if that old gym were the first thing to be done, Chief could have his birthday party there, but we've got to have some portion of it open. The portion that Jermon Bushard is working on is the old Industrial Arts Building. We had an event on the property September 20th, and with over 300 people there this year and last year. There was nothing that they could do or see inside the building, and that was very disappointing. And even that building wasn't ready. We cleaned it as a Martin Luther King Day thing, but the electricity is spotty and it's still wet and the roof leaks. So come on, people, I'm getting older and older.
And I don't, there's power in the Industrial Arts Building, but I don't think there's any power in the main.
Well, yes, there is. And it's not steady in the Industrial Arts Building.
Yeah, I heard.
And Chief Moody saved the day a couple of years ago when that almost burned. Is that right, Chief? Your guys did, yeah. but there's power in there because I've been in with masks and all of that and done a survey and looked around. And those of us who kick the pigeons aside and so forth, we go in from time to time to see what else is necessary. Chris and whoever else, they board up the windows so that the birds don't come in and take root. And thank God it's not swampland. We have alligators, you know. So
I guess
obviously we're pitching all of the things that you're talking about here tonight. We're pitching the opportunity for tenants.
Right.
Tenants in the building. We as a King George Museum would be a tenant.
Ralph Bunch
Visualize and
Alumni
Live would be a tenant.
The Ralph Bunch Alumni Association would be a
They
tenant.
would be a tenant.
So the overall name,
the extension
Ralph
office,
Bunch, whatever you said, however long it goes, that's the key. That's what keeps us on the Virginia Registry and the National Registry and the Congressional Record for what took place and how Ralph Bunch came to be. But we're all tenants because you own the property.
And that would be the home of whomever. I mean, the extension office, the commercial kitchen that would be there, all of those things.
Parks and Rec.
And that we even, in the plan that we had, that I sent the email to you and had the various pictures of things like that, those things also included meeting rooms, adult classroom education possibilities. If you wanted other tenants in there that you're currently paying rent for to house them somewhere else, that could be where they are. And we lose a couple of those classroom locations for whatever. It could be whatever the county thinks saves the county the most money with regard to taking people away from places that you're paying rent for. We understand that what's going to be housed there are tenants of organizations and run by Parks and Rec with massive potential, especially with the gym. Not just basketball games, theater events, movie events, all kinds of things that can happen, dances in that gym. Never mind Visualize and Rise and all their athletic opportunities that are going to come to pass. And Jermon Bushrod's affiliations with his partners that plan to help in this event.
Yeah,
So
with counseling and STEM programs at a lower level,
all
which
of those
is
things are in
a
the
teaching
plan.
kitchen. People can get certified so that they can really sell stuff at the farmer's market and conference rooms. I had a minister ask me, is Ralph Bunch working? We want to have a conference. It's not working, you know. Join up, help us.
They can have one, it's got to wear a mask.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
So you could even have the Dahlgren Heritage Museum in there, all three museums in one location.
Not the Dahlgren Heritage. That's a whole separate ball game, and you know that.
Yeah,
but that is a possibility to be a tenant.
No big guns. Stop it.
There's room.
You talked about putting Parks and Recs in there at one time, too. did you?
Well, no.
Well, they would have to manage
some of Chris' staff, like the entryway for introductions and opening and closing, unless someone wants to put me on salary. But certainly, they're crowded. A lot of people are crowded.
And renting the space, basically.
Yeah.
They would be in charge of renting the space.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because it's a county building, I'm saying, not because we think they're the ones that should do it, but they're the county, so.
And here's the other thing, the cost of all this could be split up over many years, correct?
Right.
I mean, or finding some very nice donors.
So
The grants, Mr. Smolik.
I like the idea. I like the idea of redoing the building and making it this place that people go. And I think it's a beautiful area. You can have like a little park over there. I mean, just
It's
nice.
a perfect location.
Yes.
Just catching everybody on
Yes,
301
yes.
to catch the history of the county right there in that spot.
But I'm intrigued right now about the renovating of the gym first, because it ties right into what Bushrod's doing next door, which is athletics and things of that nature. But it could also be used as a banquet hall. It could also be used, like you're saying, for different things.
Absolutely.
And that would at least start bringing life back to the property itself. You have indoor concerts and stuff, whatever you want to
Absolutely.
do there, right?
Exactly.
Movie night.
So have your own little jazz festival.
And there's also a warming kitchen there for catering. There's a lot that could happen there.
And Parks and Recs could use it and all that, yeah.
For wrestling.
Yes. Yes, that.
I'm just saying we need a spot for them.
So the gym
Friday
would be a
night
restoration
SmackDown.
project because it still has the B, the original B. It still has original things about it that we'd want to keep.
Yeah, there's a
And so it's
stage.
just a restoration.
Yeah,
It's
there's
not
a
even
stage for you.
Right. It's not. That's right. It's not even a complete redo. So that's
Yeah.
an advantage.
Bill.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, I'd like to get an idea how much that would cost. I see the big picture, just what that would cost. I'm not saying that I don't want to do the whole thing,
Yeah.
but I'm just intrigued by
Foyer in the gym.
of getting something like that done and then seeing what opportunities that opens up for more
Phase 1,
grants.
2, and 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that'd be phase 1 in a way. Okay. All right.
We talked to and when.
Well, the same ones who did.
Well, the only thing I would add a caveat, we probably have to deal with the hazardous materials inside before we renovate any part of it. So that would probably have to be stage 1.
Under construction, like a website, under construction. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Can I get a yes? Okay, I see the heads nodding.
Yeah. Mr. Metz, you want to say, Mr. Metz?
I was going to say, you guys have put some great words here tonight. If you could put that down in a couple of pages in a little white paper about what this is a vision, right? Maybe some off ramps and some alternatives. Because I think that's what you see the response here. When you have a vision, it's much easier for us to figure out how it folds in with what we want to do with the county.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, moving on. So rec center. So we talked, I know, Mr. Davis, you mentioned dominoes earlier. The order of the dominoes falling. This would be another one. Depending on whether or not the board's priority, if you want to tear down the old school board building, which means the school offices would need to get relocated somewhere, and then you can go ahead and build this rec center over on that property. So this is focusing, where the old school board office is, $14 million, bringing sports, tourism, track meets, basketball tournaments, whatnot, and then, possibly re-energize, revitalize the pit. But there are a couple steps in order to make this happen, as I stated, with courthouse and making sure that our school board office has a home. And if that's renovating here or building onto the admin building, that's really step 1. This would be a next step down the line. Any specific questions?
So this is more what we talked about as far as like a field house type building. This isn't just like what we have over here right now, what you guys are using.
So I based our design, one of the things, my two boys, my two oldest boys run track. Mr. Metz's son runs with them. And I visited Rockingham County's facility back in the fall. I'd been following the progress of their rec center. They went through some challenging times before they got it passed. They're funding theirs with using their tourism occupancy tax, along with revenue being generated. They put a 200-meter indoor track inside that it's a flat track, so they run both collegiate and high school events, have the ability to do the weight throw and shot put inside. There's 3 basketball courts that are within the track. So on non-track days, they have basketball courts. They then have another basketball court in an adjacent gym. They have some classrooms, their departmental offices. Mr. Metz went down and visited. I believe he said in his conversations with their director that they're revenue positive. And are paying their note based on what they've got there and their hotel tax. We don't have an indoor track in our region. Tomorrow, our high school team and the Battlefield District, which is from us and Caroline out to Culpeper, we're running at Woodbury Forest, the private school out there, renting that facility. We go to our region meet, which for our region, for Region 4, 4B. We go down through Hanover County and out to Louisa. We're going to run the region meet in a couple weeks down at Boo Williams in Hampton. Closest one they could find that could house the entire region. So there's be a lot of potential for indoor track meets, both just standard Wednesday night meets where we could invite teams in and have revenue that way. Also do some invitational type things on Saturdays or on Saturdays and Sundays, possibly working with the University of Mary Washington and hosting some collegiate meets. In addition to having, basketball courts, a seniors room, other opportunities, maybe, to get some full recreation in one place. The challenge we have, other than the Citizen Center, which is it's a 50 by 50 room with 2 50 by 50 rooms with a dividing wall that you can open and have nice banquets. Every other athletic program we do is in a facility owned by King George County Schools or operated by King George County Schools. It's a school building. It's the Quonset hut. It's the school board building. It's the current VOTEC building, which won't be with us much longer. So we're in borrowed space everywhere. we can't offer daytime activities. We've got seniors that come to us and say, hey, we would like to play pickleball during the day. I don't have an indoor spot to play pickleball. We've put lines in gyms, King George Elementary, we've played there. But then again, we can't play that till about 6:30, depending on, no matter what season it is, because once the school day ends, then we're doing our before and after school care. Give us a lot of opportunities. It's one of the things, there's different ways. Originally, my original one that I was looking at, and kind of was drawing in my head was more like Fredericksburg Fieldhouse, where we would have multiple courts and opportunities like that. Probably wouldn't have that many turf fields, but that size facility, very similar. The first time I went in there to watch some events, I immediately did my rec brain and was like, okay, that's a basketball court, and that's a basketball court, and that's an office, and counting off the length of the dasher boards, knowing they're 6 foot, 4 foot pieces of glass, and I had it all sketched out in my head. We just don't have that opportunity for our kids to be able to offer solid programs. Now, there's the other option of, are you going for a sports tourism type field house, which is an option. Most, Virginia Beach has a couple of those. The Henrico Sports and Entertainment Center, I believe is what it's called. It was the mall. It's got 16 or 18 basketball courts that you can turn into 24 volleyball courts. It has an arena court. Like, it really is a tourism aspect. And that kind of facility, you typically contract out to a firm that runs those type facilities. The best local example of that, besides Fredericksburg Fieldhouse, the same company also operates the Rouse Center for Stafford County Parks and Recreation. And so they run that pool and rent that pool out. Stafford did not opt to rent them the Embry Mill Sports Complex, the turf fields there. The county still operates those in partnership with Stafford Soccer. But those are the options, trying to find a place that we could, one, possibly eventually get Parks and Rec off of the taxpayer dollars by developing enough revenue. And then also to be able to provide a good number of activity spaces for our community without having to lean so heavily on the schools. One of the conversations Dr. Boyd and I had very early in the school years, we've gone through some transitions of, previously it was anybody who wanted into the schools pretty much after 5 o'clock would go through us. And so we would have a company, somebody come in and say, I want to have this event. And we would write a principal and say, hey, is the school available this day at this time? And they would write back, sure. And that was pretty much all the information we gave them, because now we've put this reservation in and they've got pictures on camera of kids running on the second floor of Steelson Elementary or going in the library. And principals are coming back to us going, well, really, they're going to Dr. Boyd saying, what was in my school? And, yes, we had a staff member there, but if that staff member is doing something in the restroom and now we've got people where they shouldn't be, we've taken all those third-party reservations, and now the school is doing those after school, any of those, which has helped the operations, I think. It gives them better confidence of what's in their schools if it's not one of our direct programs. But it's, it's limited space. We will literally have people call, and we've had it, I need to have a baby shower. Well, the Citizen Center's rented. Well, how about the Quonset hut? For a baby shower, it's a gymnastics facility. Nope, sorry, it's rented for birthday parties. Well, can we use a school gym? Like, they're just looking for space. And a school gym's not really the right place for a baby shower, but we don't have those large meeting facilities. The Hop Yard Clubhouse, it's $100 an hour. So it's a difficult thing to figure out. In my world, I know this is probably the 10th project in the line of dominoes of the things that we have to do. So it's not a tomorrow thing, but there are plenty of options there. Whether we could put it on the site and renovate the pit as well in that and have an amphitheater and a quality field. Dr. Boyd and I've talked about the ADs, the football coaches. If we could have a field there that was renovated and ready and we could have an event there, those folks that have been in this community forever would love us. That's always the question is, can't we play one football game a year there? And we're like, not right now. Those bleachers are a little, they're fine, but they're not great. They work for what we use them for, but I would not want to make a full house on.
They're not conducive for the people who carry cell phones now, because everything falls into the weeds below it and you can't pick it up. There's no blocking like they have now in bleachers. So, yeah.
I'd just like to add to Mr. Clark's statement there. So I went up and got a tour of the facility with their assistant Parks and Rec director. And it's a 200 by 400 foot steel building that looks not like a steel building. And so that's why, Mr. Boyd, I was asking about the design of the CTE building as well. It's almost one of those, I wish we could make these two work together, but I know some of the classes have specific air handling restraints and thickness of concrete and that kind of stuff. But, you know, it's really close because the way Rockingham runs that facility, it is their citizen center. The classrooms that are there are full all the time. And pickleball courts in the middle of the track. But what was fascinating was if track ever goes out, they pull it up. It's on a flexible floor space and you can replace the whole thing. As a matter of fact, they do flip that building for multiple uses. It happened to coincide with a track meet with the school, which is why I was there. They were flipping it the following weekend to hold a NCAA archery event. So the first thing that went in my mind was the JROTC Rifle Club needs space, right? It's a big facility, so I asked them about their operating costs. Their weekend rentals were exceeding their operating costs. Doesn't pay them the loan, the debt that they had taken out, but then they were using EDA and tourism dollars for that. So it was a fascinating funding resource for that. So it is one of the facilities, yeah, it's probably down the list, but it's one of the few that we talk about where it probably has an opportunity to, you make an upfront investment to have it pay for itself.
And I can tell you the one in Blue Williams, you'd be surprised. They make more of their money because as a track meet, you're trapped there for hours. They make their money off the concessions.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how they make their money is because you're trapped there. But also, too, James City County is building a new facility, but they have a partnership with the Williamsburg, and I think they've gotten some money, federal money. But their facility, what I've seen the diagrams, is going to be really nice, and they're going to have community event space, pickleball courts, basketball, a small track, a whole bunch. It'll be good. That's what I envision.
And I spoke to Ms. Ruth Larson, of a James City County board member, just last week, and she offered, Matt, if you want to bring your crew down for tours, it's between York County, City, Williamsburg, and James City County. Great partnership between those three.
Yeah, Ruth and I have been talking. She keeps saying, you got to come down, Kathy. So I'd love to, if you set up that trip, to come down and see that. Because I saw the steel frame of it when I was there last year. So I'm sure it's much further along.
All right, if no other questions, we got a couple more projects here. I just want to go through this. This next one's pretty basic. Land for economic development, $4-5 million. We don't know what it's going to be. So having been in economic development for a number of years, I know the importance of having land that is controlled by a locality versus dealing with a third party and dealing with those negotiations through the state, through the site selection consultant. It's just taking one level of uncertainty out of the picture if the county owns it. And I know the county had planned for an expansion or a second industrial park. That's still on the table. That's where this vision comes from, whether it's manufacturing, distribution, or whatnot. But the goal here is to own and control the property. And you'll hear a presentation by GWRC at your next meeting. It's Go Virginia grants. State has Virginia Business Site Ready grants, and a lot of that is geared towards it's preferred if a locality owns it. State money goes into locality owned properties versus private properties. So $4-5 million, pretty straightforward here. Any questions? Okay, next one, we touched on this a little bit already. Cost to be determined. We really haven't gotten that far with this. The current school board office where Dr. Boyd resides every day. I know last year at the CIP, the board explicitly talked about this, and I think Dr. Boyd had put 5 or 6 projects in the CIP last year, and this board decided that we're not going to put any more money into this facility. So really the only thing else would be to demo it. Again, this is one of those dominoes. Where does it fall in line with making way for new office space for the folks over there? Moving on next, if there's no questions, the pre-K facility. I know this these funds were borrowed as with the 2023 series bonds. So money's already been borrowed. They borrowed it for Company 2 and the pre-K back in 2023. I know there was some discussion amongst the school board and with the superintendent. Do we build a standalone facility or do we house it at the individual schools? So this is still out there. Money's already been borrowed for this. If it doesn't get built, we can roll. I'm quite certain after conversations with Sands Anderson and Davenport, we can roll this money into other capital projects. Similarly, if there's money left over for Company 2, we'll be able to roll those funds into another capital project. So, Dr. Boyd, is there anything specifically you wanted to talk about with this one?
I can just tell you that right now we're making plans in the school board office and amongst the school board to have our preschools at our elementary schools as it currently stands right now. We see the instructional benefit of that, making sure that those 3-4-year-old students get that experience in their home school as they matriculate into kindergarten. So we know we still desire space. We need space. However, we're making some modifications on our end in terms of the preschool right now, especially with vocational school being our priority.
Thank you, Dr. Boyd. That does help a lot of people that use pre-K. It's also an enabler for getting them back into the workforce. So being close to home is helpful.
Thank you.
I like that plan.
And I know a lot of people on your board are kicking around the idea of they want a preschool in every school.
Yes, that's actually what we're working towards right now. Space is an issue, particularly at Potomac Elementary School. Honestly, that's where it's very challenging. We've discussed some possibilities. Currently, we have 7 classrooms at King George Elementary School dedicated to the preschool program. We're trying to consider freeing up some classrooms at our other 2 elementary schools. We had a very good meeting yesterday talking about the future of our different. We have three preschool programs right now. We have early childhood special education, we have VPI, and we have Head Start. And we're talking really about what all 3 of those programs and what they look like. We really want to expand access and make sure that we can serve as many kids in our community as we can. Because honestly, I'll tell you, we see it firsthand, but the research shows it as well. Those kids that have that preschool experience and go into kindergarten, they are leaps and bounds ahead of other students that are starting kindergarten for the first time, and that being their first experience in schooling. So when you look at the research, that's a huge bang for your buck when it comes to their growth and matriculation through the public school, getting that head start in the preschool program. So we're still focused on that. But in terms of facilities, I can tell you the board's priority is the vocational center right now. And we're trying to work within our existing resources to satisfy the needs of our preschool students in terms of what the school board needs.
Any additional questions from board members?
No.
All right, thank you. So next one, there's no cost associated with this. This is to be the new visitor center. Should that courthouse be tore down, visitor center / museum building, whatever you like to call it. But this is, I talked about this already. I did not put it in this year's CIP just because I knew there were so many dominoes ahead of this. But I did want to put this on the board's radar to see where it is in your priority. So there's another deal we're working with the museum at the foot of the 301 bridge, working with VTC right now. Some preliminary discussions on reutilizing, the county running some of that space. So that's a little bit more to be determined. But this particular visitor center would be across the parking lot where the old courthouse is located. So that's it. Those are the projects. So initially when I planned this, it was now go through and drag and drop all your notes. But I've been watching all the activity going on here, and I know the board members have been hard at work. So Mr. Dines, I think if you grab control of the whiteboard, we can zoom in on this and.
Oh, I do. I may not come to a decision today.
All right, so for the public, the way this is set up, Each board member has a specific color. I know Ms. Bender's green, Mr. Davis is blue, Mr. Metz is the orange, Mr. Stroud's yellow, and Mr. Sullins is the gray. So what we've done is each project that we just went through with an approximate cost, and there are some deviations that were noted, have they're on the left-hand side. If you zoom out just a little bit, Mr. Dines. So what we did, we organized these all on the left-hand side, and the board members have the ability to grab and drag their particular project into the specific year, starting in 2026, going out, I think, till 2038. So what this will do is this, this creates a picture of what the board's priorities are. So staff, Dr. Boyd and the citizens will kind of know this is what the board's direction that we're going to focus on and work towards. So if we do need a few more minutes, that's fine. If there's any specific questions on any of the remaining stickies, I'll be happy to answer them, or any of my staff. Mr. Chair, if you want a 5-minute recess to finish this up, or any other board members, if you need more time, whatever y'all would like.
Mr. Smalley, the only question I had was the 2026. I mean, we're in FY 26. So
Right.
I mean, this is a calendar kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. We could have started in 2027. The main goal here is not specifically the year, but we're going to look at that first box. That's right. What's your top priority?
Gotcha.
Well, if you want to build a VOTEC building in 2027, you got to start in 2026.
Yeah, I'm going to move mine.
So. I just want to tear everything down now. Let's just tear everything down, and then it makes it so much easier. Right?
I only have that one because if you're going to tear it down, we don't need to remodel it. That's the only reason I didn't. Okay. There, I'm all done now. I put it at the end.
because I already got it before that.
And Mr. Sullins, I see, it looks like you still have, and this was a question that came up with a couple board members, you still have the old courthouse remodel there. If that is not your plan, just drop it in the very end, just so we can clear house here and all the stickies are accounted for. Thank you, sir. All right, so it looks like all the stickies are gone. So Mr. Dines, what he has up on the board, and a good question, we're already in 2026. Is this really going to happen in 2026? No. But years aside, this gives staff, what your priorities are. And what I envision here is, Mr. Dines has 3 years up right now. We'll make this a public document on our website, just so, people who want to follow this meeting, come back and watch it, can see this document to get some understanding of, where the county is going to head. But this gives us, and I'm not going to go through all these right now, but this gives the readers an idea of the top 3-year priorities. And what we'll do, we'll analyze this, and we'll crunch the numbers and put, hey, how many board members for this project, how many board members for that.
It's a living document.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
This is not an end all be all. That is correct. Good point, Mr. Davis.
Yeah, I'd like to, I could do it later. Just set some time to sit down with you this week. You got time this week for me to come by?
I'll make time. Yes, sir.
All right.
So, but eventually we will need to, while it is a living document, there will need to be some, I guess, I don't know if the word rigidity, if that's a real word, but some structure to it, so that my staff knows how to proceed, how to start working with our bond counsel and Davenport to finance it. Financing some of these projects, it's going to lead to your debt service and your annual debt service, which, if there's no additional sources of revenue, that could lead to a tax rate increase. My job is to see what we can do to trim the budget and find additional sources the best that we can. But if when you're talking some of these big ticket items here, that's borrowing, and that's gonna, that's long-term debt. So, Mr. Davis, I'll be more than happy to sit down with you, or the same goes to any of the board members. If you got any questions, reach out to me. For the public out there, like I said, this good point. This is a living document, but at some point in time, we'll need to kind of nail it down. But this is a great exercise. Gives me what I need. I think gives me what my staff needs. Good exercise.
And then that's one reason why I want to meet with you and kind of go over it and see what we're going to have some stuff up here, and it's going to be out of order. I can already tell by looking at some things, like some things have to be torn down before you can do those process. So we're out of, so I just want to really map that out, as opposed to just right here. It's a little.
Yep, and we'll look at that with order of projects. And what I can do, I'll provide if I can get it by Tuesday night, I will. I can't promise you I'm going to get it done. I know my weekend is full, but if not, maybe that next board meeting, I will have a good summary of this for the board and the public.
I don't think it would expect anything next Tuesday.
Okay, thank you.
We're going to be probably making some changes over this.
We're planning for March. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say, so before, or as you're in conversations with how we finance this, right? Like, some of these years we have more stuff in there than we can pay for.
That's right. So
we're going to need to manage our expectations, and
that's right.
And some stuff will shift around based on that.
Mm-hmm.
But if I want to have the area where the pit is redeveloped, and the first thing is, you got to get the school board out of the school board building, right? Well, so I put the county building in there. If you come back and say, well, we have this other idea for space for them, then I might move that, because that was a pretty sizable budget item in there, right?
That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of questions attached to this stuff, and that's one reason why we're going to have to dig into it before we expect you to come up
first draft.
Yeah, and the good thing is this is a living document, so at the future board meetings, we can bring this document right up and we can start moving them around. Absolutely. I want to thank Mr. Sullins. He says, Mr. Smoke, because initially I was talking about having this during a board meeting. He's like, that's not going to happen. Let's do a separate work session. So Mr. Sullins, when you're listening, thank you. This was not, we didn't rush this. We took our time. So any questions from anybody at the table here representing any of these projects, or any of the board members? All right. What do we have here? I guess you got your secondary public comment.
We did that, didn't we? Yeah, we did that.
Address meeting item.
No. Anybody want to talk? Anybody want 3 minutes? Claudette, 4 minutes? No, all right. Anybody online?
No, Mr. Chairman.
I'm assuming we've received no correspondence? Nope. All right. I guess, do I got a motion?
Yeah. Chair, I'll make a motion. We adjourn the Board of Supervisors to Tuesday, February 17th, 2026 at 5:30 PM in the boardroom of the Rivercombe Building located at 10459 Courthouse Drive, King George, Virginia.
Motion properly seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.